Okay, guys, so I hope that you guys watched my first live video about the bigger picture. And I want you guys to know that this is not for the sheeple. This is not for the small minded people that take things on the surface for what they are. These are for the people that actually use the brain that God has given you, or them, or I, to use. And no one knows the truth, right? We don't know the truth about anything besides what was given to us, but we know that there's truth in all lies, okay? So I want to keep tying the bigger picture with Nipsey. And I hope that this gains enough attention that if it saves a soul, it saves a multitude of sins, okay? All right, so Nipsey signed to Atlantic Records in 2017. Atlantic Records is a major record company, and they are corporate. They're part of that pyramid of those 13 bloodlines of Satan that are trying to deceive the world through deception. And so, 2017, Nipsey tells us that he signed a deal with Atlantic Record. If you listen to his music, he goes on to talk about how in 2018, lots of things and changes and deals and things like that were conquered. You can kind of tell if you listen to his music that there are ups and downs. But in a sense, if you're paying attention, it seems as if Nipsey had come across a good amount of money. And Nipsey says that it was his time to come from independent to, you know, being a global artist. And in order to be a global artist, you have to sign with a major record label in order to get those networking, media, world attention. It's just what you have to do. And when you sign to a major record company, let's just start with 360. I'm sure there's other deals and things like that, but let's talk about 360 deal. When you sign deals with those companies, they have certain restrictions. And these companies are part of the bigger people, the corporate people that run the world in music and things like that. Remember that Satan came from the melodies of music. He was like the musical devil. Let's just say that. So we know that deceit is going to come through music. And if you guys don't know, 80% of remembering things comes through and in the form of um, heter- what's the word? Like basically rhythmic music that we kind of remember, we put in our mind, and then from our mind it kind of becomes our thoughts, and from our thoughts and our actions, etc. Anyways, they require that you stay according to the agenda. We don't know exactly what agenda is what and what it entails as far as terms, but there is an agenda, and that's why you'll see lots of artists. Cardi B, she went from the stripper pole to major global attention in just moments. Well, she signed a deal and she talks about it. Celebrities tell us, we just don't listen, or we think it's cool, or I don't know what the hell. And they give you this lump sum, this advance of money, and that's how they hang you by a fucking rope. They give you an advance, which I'm going to go back to Nipsey. In 2017, he signed the deal. In 2018, he was making big, big changes, buying things, setting up billion-dollar deals, cryptocurrency, um, commercial buildings. They even say that he has He invested in the Vector 9, the STEM research program. I mean, well, Vector 9 isn't the STEM research program, but he invested in Vector 9 with the attempt to go along with the STEM program type setting. Anyways, he did a lot, and maybe things we don't even know, okay? But we know that that was a transition from 2017 to 2018. Nipsey was making major moves, okay? That is the way he the way that he was able to do this is by the advance that he received from signing on to a big major record company known as Atlantic Records. When you do this, you can no longer act as an independent artist and do and say what you want to say. And that's why we will see a lot of artists just doing wild, wild things, satanic, demonic things. I mean, everything against the will of what we know nature is. And nature is not that boys dress in dresses and screw each other and all this wicked stuff. So we gotta know, come on, there's an agenda. Nipsey was a king. He was a rebellious, but in a good way, man. And they knew that. And they couldn't have that because they're the gods, they're the power, they're the ones in control. Everyone else is the pawns. Even if you think you're in control, you're a de facto. They make you feel you're in control, but you're really not. They are. So, anyways, I believe through Nipsey's music, he was saying some things. He was expressing the fact that there is a divine presence in our worlds. He was saying things that most artists would not even say because that's not even their thought process. He talked about a little bit of hoes and his street life, but that was what he had to endure. So that is going to be his context. You know, it was a part of his life. But he also talks about how he knew now that he was wise and had understanding, that was not the way that he wanted to go. And he wanted to do something different because I'm sure he felt like he was in bondage to that life. And although he was smart and he was a genius in ways, he could not get out of that because being a hood man in Los Angeles was just the way you had to go if you were black and poor. So even though he expressed those things, he really was truly a golden spirit. So, anyways, to go back to that, Nipsey signed that deal in 2017. You'll notice from his music that once he signed with Atlantic Record, it seems like he gained a good amount of wealth. And he started to establish deals and do things that he had planned in an attempt to unify our worlds and in an attempt to give truth to our world. Nipsey was a truth seeker. He wanted to know the truth in things because the only way to figure out who you are is to know who the true you are and who you come from and what you're about and your purpose. Um, Hold on a second. So, anyways, Nipsey was expressing things that were basically not the agenda. The higher people do not want you to know that you can speak things in the universe and you can give it your positive energy and your positive thoughts, and it can appear just kind of like what the Bible says, like you seek and you'll find, like you ask and you're given. But it of course has to be in the alignment of God. But the whole point that Nipsey was trying to make was that If you higher your frequencies and your thoughts and things like that, and which is not gain besides gaining knowledge, then you can have everything that you desire. God tells us that. Nipsey understood that concept. Nipsey understood that he was not God, but there's a divine presence that's over him. That's what the people of this world don't want you to know, and especially not in music that can influence people by 80% more than any other thing. No, that wasn't it. They didn't want that. Not only that, he was tampering in cryptocurrency, as I mentioned before. Cryptocurrency is basically like Bitcoin. It is going to be our new way of money, the economy. We are going to eventually start using everything via these cryptocurrency type aspects, and everything will be paperless free. That's what world we're going into. And if Nipsey was able to establish things like cryptocurrency and billion-dollar deals with the platform that he's given, he had an amazing outlet to change the world. And the creators don't want this, especially not from a person of African descent, where they have took all of the truths and turned into lies. And now this Nipsey guy is gonna come and change things. Fuck that. He doesn't run shit, is basically how it goes. So back to this. So when you sign a deal, you become part of the illuminated people, because they only choose people that are innovative, creative, wealthy, and things like that. Okay. And when you become part of the illuminated people, you have to follow under rules such as Masonic order. Let's just give that an example. And there's a lot of Masonic illuminated things going on in this Nipsey case. And the Masonic illuminated secret society orders consist of strict things. And one thing that I looked into that the Masons base uh, their initiations on is called the Oath of Nimrod. And basically, the Oath of Nimrod, uh, and go research who Nimrod was biblically, so you can see how they mock the they want all the bad things. They mock everything that the Hebrew Bible talks about. But anyways, the Oath of Nimrod is basically an oath that you guys should research, and that's just basically saying that you become a part of us and you're restricted. You cannot even utter any secrets or things or anything that you know, or that we've taught you, or that you understand, or you're under an oath. And that oath being violated is the terms of death. Okay? Death. The Nimrod oath of the higher elite people that run the music industry and just the world in general. So go do research on what the oath of Nimrod is. Okay? And that right there should probably understand that when Nipsey signed his deal, he potentially signed an oath. And if he went against that oath, that was his life. And I believe that with Nipsey doing things like one big thing in particular, um, taking the blindfolds off the people in regards to the pharmaceutical industry, that was a big deal. The fact that he was trying to unite the biggest gangs in our U.S. world, the Crips and the Bloods, that was against their policy. Remember, the Masons are the guys, the authority of the world. Police, yes, FBI, CIA, presidents, all those big guys. And he was going to unite the Bloods and Crips, which meant that the crime rate goes down, the community gets better, the police aren't needed. I mean, so many things. Not only that, he was fucking with the city. In order for LA to make money, they need businesses, they need people to buy homes for property taxes. They need us, basically, and that's the part that we don't get. They need us in order for them to even operate. And Nipsey even knew how to go against the city in the means of he was going to buy up the communities and not even pay taxes because he was so smart that he understood how to get commercial businesses and businesses in general and how to make them do what he wanted them to do as far as under his conditions because he gained the knowledge to do this. So the city, they're pissed off. LAPD, like, fuck you, Nick. You want to unify, put us out of jobs and shit? Um, the main guy of the FBI, something Hoover, says that the worst thing that we can have in this nation is, or I don't know if this was Hoover. I think Hoover said something like, the next Messiah will be the Messiah we create, and he's over the FBI. But an FBI agent, a top-notch one, says that the worst thing that we can have is Negro unity. Type that in, and you will find that quote. So these people do not want Negroid unity. That's colored people unity, period. So he was fucking with the LAPD. They're one of the biggest gang authorities of our nation in LA. He was fucking with the pharmaceutical industry. They are the highest gross domestic product that we receive in America. This is how America stands. He was fucking with cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is our new way of money, and he was on it before it had even been, I guess, maybe established, obviously, in the manner that they wanted established. Their goal is to be in control. Not only that, he knew the universal laws of oneness, how there's a divine existence. And the way that you connect with this divine existence is by the laws of the universe, the laws of nature. You know, he had an understanding of that. What he spoke out of his mouth became like how God says that. He says, life and death is in the power of the tongue. So Nipsey knew that he can speak life into his life. You know what I'm saying? Um, Not only that, um, just speaking about health in general, they make money off keeping us diseased and sick. That's why the spinal column, the 33 vertebrae in which I want you to research, is the way of health, is the way of life. The elites know this. Basically, aligning your chakras and things will enlighten you to the presence of God. And the people, the evil of the world knows this. They do it themselves, but in a wicked way to possess wicked powers. Pharaoh, the Egyptian god, had powers too. They weren't as strong as God, but we are gods, right? So we do have that power within us. But they have sent chemtrails and fluoridated our water and things like that to dumb us down and to remain the sheeple. So we won't know that our connection with God and the way to get close to God is finding that spiritual oneness. Nipsey knew that. In his video Higher, he knew he was going to die. He knew that. Whether it was an allegorical ritual, in which I'll talk about later in regards to Nipsey, because he had to do it, or rather, Nipsey really was murdered. It was inevitable. This was Nipsey's time. And no matter what, he couldn't change it. It was his fate. So, Nipsey fucked with and went against, in a good way, the biggest powers of our American world. And he was an African. And according to them and the zodiac that they believe, he was a king of Judah because he was lion. He was a Leo and born August 15th. Not only that, he was 33, the age of Jesus, which is a Messiah or Yeshua, shall I say? When you learn the truth, it's so hard to unlearn what you were taught. So, as far as the big guys of the world, this was it for Nipsey. There was no way out of it. And the fact that he potentially signed a contract with the big guys of the world, whether he knew or not, and he went against it, it was his time. But for us, we have to look at it like, what was it that they hated so much about Nip? And why did they? Was he releasing some truth to things that we're blinded to? That's the part that you guys are belittling yourselves about. You guys aren't looking at the truth of why. Why in the fuck would Eric Holder, some jealous man, decide that he's going to execute Nipsey by 6 shots in the abdomen and 1 in the head because he was jealous? No, fuck that. That's not what happened. I don't care what any of you guys say. That's not what happened. And to say the least, I don't know Nipsey. His spirit has been so heavy on me. I would never do this kind of stuff. Kanika Jenkins was one, and him that I just could not rest with. And when you cannot rest with something, whenever there's confusion, it's not of God. It's not right. It's not righteous. God is righteous. Even if you want to take out the term God, it's not of righteousness. And that's why it's not setting. It's not. Especially for the ones that are of a higher understanding. So those are the basis of why Nipsey was killed from the upper powers. And I just explained some things. And I'm going to go into further detail and breaking things down about how maybe I can open up you guys' eyes to see that this was a higher power thing. This was the force, the spiritual warfare that we're fighting against with the higher powers. It's not against the war against flesh and blood. The deceit is beyond you. The deceit is beyond I. The deceit is beyond us. But this is a spiritual battle that we are in worldwide, globally. Some very, very serious things are going to start taking place. Order out of chaos is why Trump is in office. And another thing to say the least about Trump, have you noticed? Nipsey made that song with YG about fuck Donald Trump as a feature. And boom, within Trump's presidency, Nipsey's dead. And have you noticed all the black men rappers that have died after or got shot after Nipsey? It's order out of chaos, you guys. Do you guys not understand that? They put Trump to gain order out of chaos. Trump is the puppet. Trump doesn't run shit. The people with the money run the world and they remain anonymous. And they have pawns like Trump to take the fucking orders. Okay? Do you guys understand that? So I want you guys to do some research. Don't take my word. Research these things. And when putting together the bigger picture of why Nipsey died, don't be a fucking sheep. Open up your eyes. Be made in the image of God with the powers of God, but not God. Open up your fucking eyes, you guys. Seriously, this shit is deeper than what you guys and I know. And the only way you're going to know that is if you learn. And I still don't know, but I know a lot. Enough, especially in connection with anything of God. I know we have a God, you guys. And while we're worried about other things, we need to start working on how we're going to vibrate our energy, our frequencies, to become in that spiritual oneness with God. And the way that we do this is by becoming closer and closer to God. And that's like acting like the God that created us. We're his children, right? We're the sons of God. I mean, we're his children. And until we become more like him, more Christ like, right? God is going to have his face turned against us. He says this. That's what happened to the the tribe of Israel. They wanted to be like the other, like the Gentiles, the Egyptians, the others, the other nations. But they didn't realize that their powers and their rulings were like kings and queens. And the others weren't as, not saying they weren't as great as the Israels, but these were actual God's sons, right? Not the sons of men, but God's sons. Okay? And God and his force is trying to bring us back to him. Right now, we live in a world of universal duality. That means good and evil, girl and boy. There's always going to be an opposing side. But when the Spirit of God becomes upon us, we're going to live in a non dual world, which means there is an opposing side. Everything is good, there's no dark forces. Okay? So if you guys are still interested in connecting Nipsey to the true message, the message that the vessels of God, and I'm not saying I'm one, I'm just a messenger. I'm not a messianic or a Messiah type messenger, but I'm someone that have done major studies, and it's not coming out of my ass. And I would like to go into detail and be more raw, but I need you guys to open your eyes to understanding. And I'm focusing on Nipsey because Nipsey's energy is a great force. And there's a reason why nationwide, even in, yeah, nationwide, people have mourned this situation. Nipsey and his death, even though he didn't get to go into depth as into what he understands and the wisdom that he knew and was going to gain, and the message he was going to give us was going to be so much more powerful. But in this wicked world, it's about negative energy because the powerful people, they can only feed off negative energy, negative frequencies. Darkness is negative frequencies, hate, the lowest frequency you can feel. Love is positive forces, lights, right? And so they can only feed off the negative of the world. That's how they become powerful. So we have to really align ourselves to be more positive because that's becoming more closer to the oneness of God, the spiritual oneness, kind of like a tree has one trunk and it's rooted, right? And as long as its roots are there, it continues to be that same tree. But it has branches and leaves, and some of those leaves fall, right? That's a significant, the tree of life, it's significant as far as God is concerned, right? The tree of life. And what the enemy wanted was the tree of life, of and the knowledge of good and evil. And he also wanted to establish immortality. being immortal, which would have meant he, like God said, they already know the knowledge of good and evil. That's why he says to be as innocent as a child, so you don't know the knowledge of good and evil. The sin was knowing the knowledge of good and evil because we were only supposed to be a non-dual, a good world. But if they eat the tree of life, then that means they live forever. Think about it. Please forgive us for all the sins we have brought upon us. Look down upon us with forgiveness for all the sins we will have in the future. Why you have that smirk?